Hello out there to everyone watching. Listen, I have a big show for you. I have a deal for you. This is a very important show. This is a life-changing show. It really can make a difference. So do yourself a favor. Grab a pen. Get ready to take some notes. Share this with a friend. Tag somebody you care about. This is a really big deal. Now, normally, I introduce every show by trying to make a big deal out about who our guest has been, who our guest is. But I want to take this time right now to let you know this is a very serious show. This is not a political show. This is not a comedy show. We've had some fun on the show before. We've talked about politics. Can you hear her?
Say it again.
I mean, I just said yes.
Okay. All right. So we have some very specialized knowledge that we're going to share with you today. The title, do you know what the title of this show was?
The title is what rich people teach their kids that poor people don't.
It's very close. What rich parents teach their kids that poor parents don't even know.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying that we're rich. Okay. I'm not speaking from an altitude like, hey, I'm rich. You're not. I'm speaking from someone who is very well studied. Now, I make big claims all the time. So I'm going to ask you, true or false? I've read hundreds of books.
True.
When I was 33 years old, I started reading. Grant Cardone told me that the average CEO reads one book per week. So I made a commitment to do that. I probably read, Paul asked me how many, several hundred, but one of the most important books I've read, one of the very most important, is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I'm qualified through my mentors to share this information with you. Okay. This is a really big deal. If you want your kids to have way more than you had, do you want your kids to have way more than you had?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Do you believe that there's skills, that there's rules? Do you believe that there's a mindset, that there are certain things that rich parents teach their kids?
Yes.
That poor people don't even know?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I love my parents.
Oh, yeah, of course we do.
I got to turn this around. I had the wrong thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Turn it around.
Okay. Happens.
I love my parents, but they were not qualified to give me money, give me advice on how to get rich.
No.
So I set out with a very specific goal in mind, is to get the information
Yes.
that I wanted. I'm going to get Paul to come back and read that to me again. So here's the deal. Let me go ahead and this is going to be some information that you really need to know. Brady, you know some of this information already, okay? Brady's watching. Thank you,
Yes.
Jamie Lopez. Here's the first thing. I'm going to give you a list of things that seem simple, and they are simple. They may be hard to do, but there are also some complex things that you really need to know. You need to teach your kids.
Yes.
The first one, we talked about it on the way up here today. What's the first mindset, the first thing you need to know?
Well, we talked about several, but how to use money.
Yep. What's the first chapter? What's the first chapter of this book was titled? Rich people do not work for money.
For money. Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So there's rich person, wealthy person mentality, and there's poor person and middle class mentality.
Right.
Poor person and middle class has the same mentality. What's some things that poor people and middle class people teach their children?
Work hard.
Work hard, get a good education.
Yes.
Not bad ideas.
No.
You know,
but there's more.
There's way more important things. Get a good job. Get a job with benefits. Get a high paying job. Not a bad idea. Get a job with a retirement plan.
Right.
Okay. Now, rich people do not work for money. What's the second part of that?
Money works for them.
Their money works for them. Okay. So you have to get yourself in a position where your money can work for you. Now, wait a minute. I don't have any money. Thank you, Russ. Russ is more than qualified to talk on this topic. We touched on it a little bit when Russ was on here. But I know I can speak to the poor people out there because I've been poor. And
Absolutely.
I can tell you how to get from there beyond middle class and start getting into an area where you're doing, much better than all the people in your past, right? In your family history.
Right.
Here's the simplest thing. I'm going to give you the secret, the answer right now, and it's a real solution, it's a real answer. But then I'm going to have to break it down and explain what I mean. Rich people give this advice to their children: acquire what?
Assets.
Acquire assets and limit
Liabilities.
Exactly. Now, but here's the confusing part. Most people don't know the difference, and you think you do.
Very true.
Don't tune out because you think that's oversimplified, because I'm going to break some things down. What's some things that we think are assets?
Your home is not actually an asset.
It's not an asset. It's on. Now, Russ will tell you that it is on your asset.
It's
in your asset column.
Right.
But it is not an asset. Why?
Because it costs you money.
For instance,
your light bill, your water bill, your taxes, your landscaping, your all the bills that come along with it.
So it's constantly.
It's not making you money.
Yes. You're absolutely right. So let's talk about three things that poor people and middle class people consider assets. That now listen, I'm not going to argue with definitions. I'm not going to argue with people who can explain by definition that a house is an asset and that a car is an asset.
And we have those things.
Of course.
I mean, that
is good. That is a good thing to have those, but to think that it's an asset. As a matter of fact, Russ is on here right now watching. Russ and I talked about this with Russ. I said, Russ, what good is an asset sitting here with no cash flow? Sure, it's equity. Sure, it shows up as part of your net worth, right, but it's doing you no good if you're not
building you anything.
You may get some
maybe later when you sell your house, you'll get something, but for years it cost you a lot of money.
All right, so let's talk about three things that poor and middle class people use, and everybody has this: a house, a car, and a credit card. Okay. Can a house be an asset? Sure.
Yes.
But it's not helping you. You would be better off. I'm not advising this. I am telling you that you're going to have to block those comments because people are commenting as me and I can't tell what they're saying. It's distracting. I'm sorry. So where was that?
You're going to talk about the house, the car.
Okay. So everybody has a house, and yes, it can be an asset, but it's not. It's not. It's going to take all your money. It's going to eat it up in insurance. It's going to eat it up, and when the AC goes out, it's going to eat it up when you need a roof. So I'm not telling you not to have a house, because I have a house and I love my house. What I'm telling you is it may be we rented
a long time though,
because that rent was $1,100 a month, and if the air conditioner tore up, what did you do?
We called somebody to fix it.
And if the
roof didn't pay for it,
and if the roof started leaking, what
somebody
did you do?
else fixed
So
it.
there's this very good advice to rent until you
can afford to pay for all those things that come along with the house.
Well, yes, but rent. It's a good idea to rent beyond that, because as long as you can get by with living in that house and renting, you can use that extra money to do
build your wealth.
To build your wealth, to acquire assets. So let's talk about some assets that you can acquire and that your children need to acquire. Okay. All right. Let's talk about somebody who, this is what the title of this is: what rich parents teach their kids that poor people don't know. What do middle class people and poor parents teach their kids to do with money?
Spend it, pretty much.
Well, a middle class person will say things like, you need to
save your money.
You need to save your money. Right. Well, saving money is a losing idea. I'm not saying you shouldn't have some cash.
Right.
But cash is depreciating every single day.
And money sitting somewhere is not doing you any good either.
It's not doing you a bit of good. So you've had money sitting in a savings account.
I did. I'm guilty.
Well, but it was sitting there for a long time, money sitting in a savings account. What did you decide to do? Once you learned some better things to do with your money, what did you do with that savings?
I decided to invest it in stocks.
So you can put money in stocks. Now, listen, young person, and tell your teenagers and your kids in college this. unless you have a substantial amount of money, unless you have $10,000, unless you have $20,000, you're already broke. You're already broke. So the best thing you could do with that money is invest it in yourself and to figure out a way to make that money grow.
Actually, my savings account I had for 3 years with a bank, and I made $32 or something crazy like that, and invested in stocks. And in 3 months, I made $1,200.
Right, and now that you could lose that $1,200.
Oh yeah,
again.
I mean I could, but I didn't.
Right, and you know we're not. We've already had financial advisors on here like Russ Story who can tell you what to do with stocks.
Just saying what I did.
Exactly. All I'm telling you is you got to get your mind right and understand the difference between an asset and a liability. So let me tell you what is an asset. We've already talked about stocks. Real estate. What types of real estate can be an asset?
Real estate that can be assets, something that you actually have rent coming in every month, and it's making you money.
Something that you have rent coming in every month, right?
Right.
Okay. So a cash producing asset.
Yes.
An asset is something that pays you. You have a rental house, right?
I do.
All right. Every month that house
Pays me money.
throws money at you. And it might go up in value,
Yes.
right? Just like the house we live in may go up in value, but it doesn't pay us anything.
Right.
Okay. So parents, you need to teach your kids to acquire assets. I see so many kids running around in a vehicle that has a payment on it, and they have a credit card with an interest on it, right?
Yes.
Now, there's a time to use
Very high interest.
Very high interest. You're on the wrong side of that interest if you're financing your cars, if you're financing your houses, and you're buying stuff. You're buying stuff with your credit card.
The most important thing that they need to know is if you do, and we finance things for a really, really, really long time. We still have my car, I think, is financed anyway, but I don't have very high interest on mine at all. Maybe even zero. I'm not sure. But if you're having to finance the whole car, you cannot afford that car.
Right.
You cannot afford that car. Just because you can afford the payment does not mean you can afford the car.
Yeah. So we looked on the way over here. The average American has how much credit card debt?
$5,700.
$5,700, and they have interest on it, right? That's not smart. So what's some small steps? You know what? I don't want to talk about the small steps. I want to make sure that we get the rich mentality across to the listeners. Okay. Acquire assets, every asset that you can acquire, every asset that you can afford.
Right.
Okay. If that's stocks, you can do it yourself. You can call Russ, right? He can help you with a better plan than this. My job is not to give you the plan.
Yeah, no.
My job is to get you thinking properly.
Yes.
Learn what an asset is. So many people have land and real estate that's just sitting there. Okay. Some people will buy lots. They'll buy property that's not cash producing in the expectation they'll buy property on a lake. That's not an investment. That's not an asset because it has property tax attached to it. Now, not saying you won't get lucky, not saying the property won't go up in value, but you're going to have to pay property tax on it until it does.
Right.
And then it may not go up. Right. So that's a speculation. You're welcome to speculate, but if you want to get rich for sure and not get rich quick, the best thing you can do is invest in yourself and acquire assets. Can you acquire a rental property that costs $150,000? Can you make it make sense to finance that rental property and put a renter in there?
You can.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You absolutely
can.
Yeah. Now that makes way more sense to borrow money. This is where rich people use other people's money to make themselves rich. You can get a loan from the bank, buy a rental property that the tenant pays you, and you use that money to pay the rent and start building equity that way. Right. All right, let's take a look at the comments and see if we have any questions or comments now. So Billy W. Merritt said, I always think of an asset as something that makes you money versus something that does not. So I think that obviously was one of the people who was logged into my account. And I totally agree with Billy W. Merritt right there. Let's stay there. Stay on Billy W. Merritt. That is the definition of an asset. Something that pays you. Something that pays you versus something that takes money from you. A liability is something that takes money from you. Very rarely is a credit card an asset.
Right.
But it can be. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So let's talk about the two types of home ownership. Everybody wants to live the American dream and own a home. Nothing wrong with that, especially if your goal is upper middle class and you want to own a house. You don't want to be rich, then that's fine. That is fine to have middle class mentality. But I'm saying that rich people don't think like that. And I know this because I've studied them very well. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Robert Kiyosaki is a very rich man. Grant Cardone is a very rich man. Donald Trump's a very rich. This is not political. I'm just saying he's a very rich man. So rich people use other people's money and they acquire as many assets. Grant Cardone says, go broke. If you want to be rich, go broke buying assets. If you keep just enough money to pay your bills and then give Russ Story the rest of it. You're not giving.
He agrees with that too.
He does. Now you're not giving Russ Story your money. Russ Story has a plan with your money, right?
Yes.
He's not the only financial advisor. And by the way, if another financial advisor wants to get on here, you're welcome to come on the show. We will give you, we do not discriminate. We will give you your opportunity to speak your mind. Let's take a look at what Russ said right there, Smith. It's always money at work for you. What? Money at work or you work it?
Money at work or you at work?
Money at work or you work. Okay. Mm-hmm. So there you go. Further. That's perfect. Obviously, he's an expert. So it's always either you working or your money's working for you. So let's talk about the cash flow quadrant and the 4 different types of people. This is important. There's 4 types of people when it comes to finances. Do you know what one of them is?
I think you're going to the employee.
Yes.
Okay.
I told you to grab a pen. You're one of these 4 people. You're either the little e, which stands for employee, and that means that you trade your time for money. Smith. Are you an employee?
I am. Yes,
you are. So you get paid by, how do you get paid?
I get paid hourly.
You get paid hourly. So if you don't work, you don't
get paid.
Okay. That means that you trade all your time for money.
Yes, sir.
And if you're playing video games, you're not getting paid. Okay. Now, that's one way to be. That's the Smith. This is an educational program, so just gotta let you know. That's the bottom rung on the ladder.
Of course.
You want to move up, okay? And I'm going to teach you how to move up. Step 2 on that ladder, you know what the second step is after the employee?
No
problem.
Don't think so.
It's an S, which stands for the specialist or the small business owner. Okay? That's you and me. Mm-hmm. We're small business owners. That means we trade our time for money a little bit. And we have a few other people, 48 to be exact. Something goes up and down daily, according to how well they show up and work. We have 48 other people who trade, including Smith.
That trade their time for us.
Who trades. Smith, do you realize that you're trading your time for my money?
Yes.
That's right. And that's what it means to be a small business owner or a specialist. It means that I get to trade my time for money, because if I can go a little while without showing up, because I have some amazing managers, some amazing leaders in here. They're actually solving some problems right now, it looks like. But I can spend some time away from here and things will operate as normal. But if I stay gone too long, things will fall apart, because it's built around the owner of the small business, right? April's Interior Design wouldn't be a great business without April, right?
No.
Billy Merritt Marketing wouldn't be quite what it is without Bill. So I trade my time for money, but I have other people who trade their time for my money. Okay. And then the third rung of the ladder is what? Do you know?
Big business.
The big business owner. That's the person who has a board of directors, a president, a vice president, secretary, CEO. He has a COO. He has all these things. She has all these things. And a lot of people are trading their time for the CEO's money. Now that person can spend more time out of the office because it's more of a things are set up very strategically.
Yeah.
Everybody has a job, everything, everybody has departments.
It's more corporate.
Yes. And then the big kahuna, the thing that we can all be, you don't see, here's the wonderful thing. Smith, you're an employee. You don't have to become a small business owner. You don't have to become a specialist. You don't have to become a big business owner. It may not fit your personality, but we can all be the big kahuna, which is what?
Big E. Entrepreneur?
Big E. Actually, Smith may not want to be a big E. He may not want to be an entrepreneur, but he can definitely be a big I, which is the investor.
Okay.
So you, as an employee, if you start investing, then you can bypass specialist, small business owner. You can bypass big business owner, and you can put your money to work for you immediately. Okay. So you can start feeding the monster, the wealth monster. Start feeding it now. That's, as Russ talked about earlier, that's when the compounding interest will get to work for you, right? You may want to be a specialist. I want to be a specialist. Not sure I want to be a big business owner, but I'm already putting money into the becoming an investor. So if you're just tuning in, let me tell you what's the title of this show, April?
What rich parents teach their kids that poor parents do not know.
Here's what poor parents do not know, that assets pay you and liabilities you have to pay for. You need to invest all your time and money in acquiring assets. I've had this conversation with all of our children. Acquire assets. Acquire assets. Here's an example of an asset. We talked about it before, I think. A bubblegum machine. Whoever owns that bubblegum machine owns an asset. That bubblegum machine is just sitting there with bubblegum in it and eating quarters. Eating quarters. It spits out a little bit of chewing gum and takes in quarters. And it just keeps doing that. It keeps doing that. You buy one bubblegum machine, it's paid for forever, and you can just keep getting cash. It's a cash-producing machine. Right? Mm-hmm. Now, here's some things you can invest in. You can invest in yourself, Smith. Have you ever paid for any type of self-help class? Have you ever bought an online course?
Let's see.
The last show you had you watched something. I don't know. I'm not sure.
It was the Understand Yourself, the Jordan Peterson, Big 5 traits thing.
So until you have a big cash flow, invest in yourself. That's something that rich parents teach their kids. Invest in yourself. Learn. Of course, you can invest in yourself by going to college, but find a course that teaches something you don't know and invest in it to learn it. Now, here's something that rich people invest in that poor people and middle class don't. Middle class person may invest in a home to live in. A rich person is going to invest in cash flow. There's a difference between value and cash flow. A piece of property sitting there with no income, a non-income producing property is sitting there with no cash flow. Maybe it's worth $1 million. Well, guess what? It's probably got a
large tax bill on that.
A large tax bill. So that's and
the upkeep. I mean, you can't have a property and let it just sit there either. Let's
talk about this right here. This is something that everybody aspires. Vacation home. We'll take our favorite island, Amelia Island. Mm-hmm. How much is a house on the water at Amelia Island?
$2+ million.
$2+ million. If we absolutely wanted to and we wanted to finance that thing, could we have one?
Yes.
Okay. So, we could have that. Sound like a wonderful thing. Oh, we're, investing in a home but what comes along with that?
We decided no after we started looking at it. The monthly taxes floored both of us. Mm-hmm. A couple of grand a month. Isn't that what it was? Monthly taxes. Then we're not there all the time because we do have to work. You get a utility payment with that doesn't go away. You get water, lights, all of that, property taxes, upkeep of the home. You got to have somebody there cleaning the home, just lots of expenses that go along with it.
But it's worth $3 million. That's a good investment. It's going to go up in
cost
value.
You $30,000 to have it every year.
So
at least,
rather than investing, what was the mortgage going to be? $5,000.
We were at the ones we were looking at with taxes and everything were around $8,000 a month.
Okay, so rather than investing $8,000 a month into a $3 million property that could double, you'd be much, much better off to take that money, invest into cash flow or something, an apartment complex,
right,
that has tremendous cash flow, tremendous return.
Now, some people do buy those houses and rent them and come out on the positive side of that. So
you can
do that. But
sure, yeah. If you want to invest in a property, rent it out, never live there,
right?
You own something that you're never using,
right?
That's one way to do it. So let's talk about credit cards, and if you should have credit cards. Should you have credit cards?
You should have the right credit cards.
So rich parents teach their kids, yes, you should have credit cards. Here's
we encourage our children to have a credit card.
They need one because their credit score is going to go up. If you have a high credit score, you're going to be able to borrow money at much lower interest rates. You're going to be able to use other people's money for less. I'm going to sneeze.
Okay.
Now,
I tried to mute you and then you started. Sorry.
Now, a credit card with a 20% interest, I don't care if it's a 10% interest. If you're financing stuff, things, clothes, if you have to have stuff, things, clothes, and you don't have the cash, sure, that's what a credit card's for. Right. But a better use of a credit card is 0% credit cards. Yes. Okay, now, do you have credit cards?
Yes, I do.
Do you have balances on your credit cards?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you have enough cash to pay those credit cards off?
Yes, I do.
Why don't you pay those credit cards off?
Because I'm using their money.
And what rate is the
0%? So
anytime you can get 0%, how much of it should you get?
All of it.
As much as they'll let you have. How long should you finance it?
As long as they'll let you for 0%.
As long as they'll let you finance it. Now, see, that's something that a lot of people don't understand.
Mine were 12 to 15 months, I think, for 0. And
so let's just say you can use someone else's money at 0% for 5 years, 2 years, doesn't matter how long. Now, here's the important part. What did we do? What did we use those credit cards for? What did we get the $20,000 or whatever it was? What did we finance on that credit card?
Some things for the house.
Yeah, some things that we needed. Hopefully, not stuff.
No.
Stuff when we're building a house, building our wealth, something that we could pay cash for.
Yeah.
But let's say we put $20,000 on a 0% credit card for 36 months, 0 interest. That means I have $20,000 now that I can
invest.
There you go. I started to say that I can blow.
No,
not to blow, that you can use to invest. And now for 3 years, this $20,000 has been having babies. Have you seen our retirement account that we have with Real Story?
I have not actually seen it.
It's had a bunch of babies. It's had a lot of babies. So now when that 0% turns into 5 or 10%, what happens?
We pay it off.
It's time to pay it off. You got to be on the right side of interest. Got to be on the right side of interest. Now, this show is about what rich parents teach their kids. So I'm going to try to keep it simple. We could get to complex topics. That's when we have, an expert like Russ on. I'm just talking about what to teach your kids. Your kid wants a $500 truck payment because he makes $2,000 a month.
Right.
Smart?
No,
it's not smart.
No,
it's not smart. It's not smart at all.
You also have a lot of insurance that goes along with that $500 truck payment.
And number one, there's $500 that you can acquire assets with. If you go broke acquiring assets that's growing, you're going to just wake up one day and you're going to have more money than you can actually spend. And that's what financial freedom is. And here's what the young people have on their side, which is time. If you start disciplining Smith, how old are you again? 26?
27 currently.
27. Do you religiously invest in assets?
I don't, and I should. Mm-hmm. I was investing into Walmart, obviously, when I was working there, but a bit of medical and vehicle issues about the time. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that just reminds me of that thing they say, that money you're saving always seems to
Yes, away. Absolutely. You'll spend it somewhere else if you don't.
So here's the thing: you worked at Walmart, and they had an opportunity for you to buy stocks. I think at a discounted rate or something.
Yes, they buy so much for every so much that you buy per pay period.
So you should have been maxing that out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely,
free money, just maxing it out. Absolutely maxing it out.
I did make money off of it, even in the short term. So I mean, even more testament.
And that's fine that you make it in the short term, but dude, I keep plugging Russ Story. Russ Story said this is a young man's game and time waits for nobody. Young people, get started now. Just start putting it in there.
And the most important thing that I think you should know is that it doesn't have to be a lot right now. Like, it doesn't have to be thousands of dollars. Everybody says, I don't have money to invest. That is not true. That is not true. You can put $50 in there. You can put whatever you want to in there. And if you go ahead and say you're going to do it, you're not going to miss it.
Okay. So rich, you're exactly right. That's a rich idea. Rich parents teach their kids, invest your money into assets, acquire assets that produce cash or dividends or increase in value. They need to produce cash. They need to have babies, and then limit your liabilities. But what do you do with the cash that's coming in, the cash flow that's coming in? What do rich people do with the cash flow that's coming in?
Invest it.
Reinvest it. And then that's when the compounding starts.
I mean, I've put money in and I haven't touched it except to buy more.
Right.
And I made a decision I wasn't going to touch it. Now, I'm not saying that if we didn't need the money one day that I will not touch it. I'm not saying that. Of
course. That's what I mean. It's yours. That's what it's there for.
I just decided I was going to put it there and forget that it was there, other than I do watch it a little bit.
See if we have any new comments. And by the way, if you're watching this, the very beginning of this, we have some we explained exactly what rich people teach their kids that poor people don't even know, and that is to acquire assets. Let's see what Brady Roberts said right there. Speaking of rental, read that for me, Smith.
Speaking of rentals, I'm working at saving the money for a down payment on my first rental properties right now.
Okay. All right. So that's a great idea. Now, and it sounds like he has some pretty good information there, because Brady has, I'll let him tell you. Brady, are your parents rich? Did they teach you how to become rich? So I think he's going to say no, they didn't and they weren't. But so he's got some good information right there. He's working at saving the money for a down payment on his first rental property. That's one way to do it. That may be the best way. Before you do it, Brady, talk with somebody who's already done it, and talk with somebody who knows some other ways to take that money. So what you're doing right there, Brady, this is an excellent opportunity. Teaching point. Brady wants to buy a rental property that's going to produce cash flow. Brady needs a down payment to acquire that. The bank is not going to give you a 100% loan right now. Okay. But they are going to give you a low interest rate, or they should. So make sure you get that, Brady. Now, I'm guessing Brady, if you're paying attention, I wish we had a call-in number. We'll have it in the new studio.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Oh, yeah. Let's get back to Brady, though. Let's get back to Brady. Okay. Brady, what you're doing there is leveraging. I'm just curious if it's a single family or a multifamily. Let's say it's a single family.
I'm sure it's a single family.
He's going to have one monthly payment to the bank, one payment coming in from the rentor. Okay. So he's taking advantage of the cash flow of the property to pay we'll call it a mortgage, to pay the loan.
Right.
Hopefully there's more payment from the rentor than there is to the bank. That's cash flow positive. That you definitely want to do that. Okay. Now there's other ways that you may actually benefit from. I'm not saying, I think it's an awesome, it's the best idea I've heard so far, but let's talk about that, Brady. Get together with me before you actually give them that down payment. And let me give you some more specialized knowledge that I know. Jamie Lopez, investing in the stock market. Yes, Jamie. Jamie Lopez will tell you. Okay, so I have Cash App, and I invest on Cash App. I invest on there's another app.
Robinhood?
No, I don't use Robinhood. Anything that's Robinhood's an evil person, so I wouldn't even, just because of the name, I wouldn't use that.
Understandable.
Yeah. Yeah, Robinhood's an evil person. That's terrible myth. But robbing from the rich to giving to the poor is absolutely evil. Totally evil.
Okay, let's move on.
Still stealing, but continue. I don't know what you're saying.
But no, you should rob from the poor, punish being poor, and give it to the rich person so that they can actually do something good with the money. That's more godly. But anyway.
Really? Oh, my word.
He's trying to be controversial.
You should be.
Okay, let's move right on from
punish.
that. We don't steal from anyone, and we don't punish anyone.
You should punish poverty.
Quit.
Look at that face.
Shouldn't have got him started.
Okay. Jamie Lopez.
Word.
Okay, so Jamie has Cash App as well. I have Cash App. I invest on Cash App.
Yes.
By the way, who thinks that you should punish poverty? I think you'd have more productive people if you punished poverty. Now,
what is wrong with you?
Make it
He's drawing off my dark sense of humor, I think.
Make it
okay.
make it a
this side of the table is not agreeing with that one right now. So all the nasty comments, don't send them my way.
Make it a jailable offense. So okay. Now, anyway, back to Jamie. Jamie Lopez. He also has Cash App. And my bank account is not set up with my Cash App, so I couldn't add money to my Cash App to buy stocks. So Facebook stock started falling, and I was like, Jamie, send me $2,000 on Cash App. Yes, sir. So he shot me $10,000, and I said, by the way, you need
$10,000,
$2,000. I said, by the way, and then Wes will tell you if he's on here, I will I'll hit him up all the time as well. So I like 3 or 4 guys that I know have a little cash on the Cash App. I'll just make them give it to me because I just like to constantly buy Facebook stock. That's the way I do it. Anyway, so Jamie says, Facebook doing good today? I said, no, it dropped 4%. That's when I like to buy. So anyway, but Jamie,
you should buy.
So Jamie is investing in the stock market. And because I was doing that, he started doing it as well. Jamie Lewis said, be careful when using the credit cards. It can be good or it can be bad. It can be bad.
Very true.
Chris Clement, what he said, never own a credit card. Read it.
Never owned a credit card. 42 years old and never will. If I can't buy it with cash, I can't afford it.
All right, I want to talk to Christopher Clement. That's not bad.
Not true.
It's better than most people, Chris. It's better than most people. That's very safe. But it's not rich thinking.
My granddaddy felt the same way.
Yep, nothing wrong with it, but it's not rich thinking.
He never even bought a car that he didn't write a check for.
Rich people use other people's money. OPM. There's a book written by Robert Kiyosaki called OPM, Other People's Money. And here's why. We already talked about it. If you can use it for 0%. Chris, if you will loan me, I'll let you be the lender. I'll be the borrower. I'll be happy to borrow. You loan me $100,000 at 0%, 2%, 3%, for a long period of time, I'm going to take that $100,000 and I'm going to find something
to invest it in
that makes me more than
100,000.
Makes me more than 0% or 1% or 2%. Absolutely. All right. Jeff Stearns said, how do you rent a car? Well, I mean, you can go to Budget and rent a car, or you could lease a car. I think maybe he was talking about, since you can't, if you need it for your personal vehicle, I mean, you can lease a car, or you can pay cash for a least expensive car.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to rent your car.
I mean, you have to have. Have to have a car, but
you
most people need a car.
You need a car. How do you rent a car? I think that's a facetious question. So, a stupid question deserves a stupid answer. I mean, go to Budget, man. If you need to rent a car, go to Budget and rent a car. It's not the wisest thing to do, but it's the simplest way to rent a car. The best way I could answer your question. Now, if you're inquiring about, you can rent a house, how do you rent a car? You can lease a car, or better yet, just buy. Christopher Clement knows exactly how to buy an inexpensive car. He has tons of cars. He'll buy a $100 car, sell the parts for $1,000. So, I mean, you don't have to have, Chris has as many cars on his insurance as we do.
Whew. Sorry about that.
And we have 4 kids, but he acquires all his. He's very good. Chris is an excellent example of acquiring assets. He sees assets where other people don't. A junk car. Somebody just get it off my property for $200.
Absolutely.
He'll give them $200 for it, sell the parts for $1,000 immediately. So I own 6.
Works every time.
So Chris also said, I own 6 cars. No need for renting. Jeff
Stern, Chris Clement, when you travel, and how, for example, do you buy a plane ticket?
Oh, so he was talking to Christopher Clement about how.
Oh, how do you rent a car if you don't have a credit card? Well, I mean, you can have a debit card and do those things as well.
Actually, you have to have a credit card to rent a car.
Do you?
Mm-hmm. Yep. It is.
So obviously he doesn't want to rent a car. So that's what he's talking about.
See what Clint Winter says.
I don't spend more on a credit card than I can cover in full at the end of a month with a check.
That's very smart. That's exactly
what they're for.
That's exactly what it's for. They're having a conversation with us. Let's read it, Smith.
Yes. Chris Clement says, well, if I don't have enough money in my bank account for my debit card to cover it, I can't afford it. Just my mindset. Plus, I never travel further than I can drive.
I want to take Christopher Clements to Europe or something. I think you could benefit. He could benefit from a credit card. Very smart guy. By the way, doing better than I'd say
most people. So
yeah. I'm just saying. I mean, he's doing very, very well. He can.
And this is our opinion, not the only way you can do something.
Next comment.
And some of it's just one of our opinions.
Stock market long term is best.
Agreed.
Sarah says, I ordered that book. Thanks for the recommendation.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And also, you can just go to richdad.com. Rich Dad Radio Show. He has lots of resources. Very simple. Very, very simple.
I believe this is a repeat, but speaking of which, I'm working on getting the down payment saved to purchase a quadplex.
Much better. So now I can speak intelligently.
Okay.
Now I can speak intelligently about that. He wants to
go ahead, Brady.
That's an excellent idea. So here's what Brady's doing. He's going to have a quadplex. It's going to have 4 tenants. Why is that so important?
Because you got multiple people. If one moves, you're not affected.
That's right. If somebody dies, you still have 3 people paying your rent. Mm-hmm. And that's much better. If you have one person.
What's that smirk for?
I just thought you'd say something about me going dark again if somebody dies.
I hope I'm done with reprimanding you during this show, but we'll see.
All right. So, but the quadplex is you know what? A quadplex usually is going to cost less per square foot than a home.
Yes.
And you can get more rent. Excellent idea.
Oh, you can probably get double rent and under the same square footage. So
yeah, excellent idea. Let's still talk before you do it. Next.
See, Helmond Anwari says, thank you for sharing this because a lot of people don't know it.
Thank you, Helmond. I am happy to share this information. It's not my information. It's information that I've learned by reading a book a week for over 10 years. But thank you, man. Thank you for your comment, Mr. Anwari.
Jeremy says, I want stock in Billy W. Merritt Marketing and DigiNinja.
You can buy it, buddy, but it's going to be expensive. Just get with me after the show. I will show you the valuation, and I will allow you to be the first investor. I've offered it to a couple of people, and they couldn't quite stomach the tiny percentage they got for $100,000. Next.
Clay Collier says, I wish more people knew this and about the concept of money and how fast the value of a dollar changes over time. I guarantee you people would do things a lot different if they had the option, that is.
Okay. We all have the option to do it, Clay. Great question. That guy, he's a heck of a texter, too. We've complimented him in the past. You're right about the value of money. The value of the dollar is doing what, April?
Going down.
That's one thing we can agree on. We should rob from the poor and pay the rich.
If you say it again, I'm leaving the show. I'm serious. Now quit.
On to the next one.
No, let's finish up. Let's finish up.
On to the next
value
one.
of the dollar. Why is the value of the dollar dropping like a rock?
I mean, because we are printing money like crazy.
Yes, we are.
And that's not just us, right?
That is correct. The dollar is the most important, though, the American dollar. Last night we learned that since 1776 to
my goodness,
from 1776 to
staggering.
1994, how much debt did we accumulate?
From the beginning of us till then, we had $4 trillion total dollars in debt. Total dollars.
And how much debt have we added?
And in the last 20 years, am I correct on that?
This year.
Well, this year we added $4 trillion, but in the last 20, we've added 20 something trillion.
Yeah. Now,
and we made it from 1776 to the 1990s with 4 trillion, and this year we cost 4 trillion.
Yep. So
this year
that doesn't end well. To that point, what's one thing you can invest in that's a hard asset that should protect against devaluation like that?
Gold and silver.
Very good. What else? What's better maybe than the hard asset of gold and silver?
The actual industry.
Yeah, the gold mine.
The gold mine.
All right. Next.
It's Brady Roberts replying from earlier. Not at all. We grew up dirt poor. My dad now has almost 20 properties. The property I'm looking at is 4 in 1.
That's awesome. So his dad has 20 properties now. So he's gotten some good information from somewhere along the way. Excellent job. Very proud of you. All right, he was talking to Chris. I'm sorry, Brady. I didn't know he was talking to Chris.
Hey.
Maybe they'll still watch because of April.
Oh boy, long alert.
Well, hold on.
But of course, it's Sarah Stalker.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Long alert. My husband and I are working on funding for this amazing property in the mountains for glamping, existing cabins, micro festivals, and more. It's $2 million. Who wants in? The business projections are fantastic, but seriously, it is an exciting time, and we're looking at a big, exciting future with it. It should be the start of multiple endeavors like this. We are done with being a little E. I like today's show.
Yep. So, you'll be able to find plenty of people who want in, Sarah. It's just dividing up that equity and figuring out who is in charge. That's always the hard part with taking on investors, is who's in charge. You have to be, and then to get the big investors, to get the people with the big money, I could get you $2 million right now, but the person who's going to give you $2 million is going to want to make Sarah a little E again.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Or at least
I don't think she's interested in the whole $2 million.
But it's a great idea. Great idea. I mean, that's rich people thinking. That's not poor people thinking. So, Sarah, have you talked to your kids about this? Do your kids know about the idea? Have you talked to them about the cash flow? And by the way, have you cash flowed the property? She says something looks good. The business projections. I don't care about the business projections. Tell me about the cash flow. How much money is it going to make? Not how much money is it going to make. How much cash is it going to spit at me every month? That's a question. I might be real interested. How many babies is it going to give me every month? Next.
Sarah again. I've heard that someone without a credit card can go to the store and get a prepaid car and go back and rent it. No personal experience, but I think it works. So I guess she's still talking about
I want the rental car.
Yes.
Yep. What's next, Brady?
of course, I've been looking at it, and it looks like I can have the money back from what I would pay for the down payment within a year. But we do need to talk.
Yeah. See, because excellent that you're thinking and you're headed in that right direction. It doesn't matter how fast you can get your money back. That has nothing to do with it. It's all about the amount of cash flow that comes every month. But we can talk about that later. Anyways, heck, it's been 50 minutes now, and we made it.
Sure has.
We made it without you leaving the set. Now, one person commented. I don't need to bring it up again, do I?
No.
Nope.
They're not going to comment on that, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Hashtag Robin Hood's evil.
Hashtag Billy should not have said that.
Well, I think there's some. We'll look it up. Google it.
Everything you read on Google is not true.
That's a fact. Did you know that a lot of what you read on Google is not true?
It's what they want you to know.
Here's something. This is something you should teach your kids: acquire assets, limit liabilities, get cash flow, cash producing assets, and don't believe anything or half of what you get from Google.
Yes.
So next, go ahead.
I was just going to say, use DuckDuckGo. They do not change things algorithmically to order the search results.
Really?
And they don't track you the same way Google.
DuckDuckGo. Put it in there. I'll start using it.
Got it.
Okay, so here's the deal. You're ignoring things. I'm not sure what's going on. I can't read the comments anymore. So here's the deal. Now, on next Wednesday show, we're going to go into an in-depth discussion on Robinhood, and
he's going to find another guest.
Who would like to see us go into a more in-depth discussion on the evils of Robinhood and the reasons why we should not steal from the rich? Okay, enough said. In about 8 minutes, Grant's show's going to come on. He's going to have today's. You know what? Today is the G&E show with Grant and Elena. You can watch them. You can watch us. You can let us know how we did. We're going to watch it together, and we're going to talk about Robinhood as soon as this show, as soon as it goes dark and you roll the outro. I'm running for the door, Smith. Thank you for another amazing show. Thank you for tuning in. The first 10 minutes of this show is everything your kids need to know. If nothing else, go back and rewind it and make your kids watch the first 10 minutes. Thank you again. Thank you to my producers, and we will see you tomorrow for another Digital Dealer Academy.